It's September 1st, Orange County Courthouse, Attorney Ayala, recording live at the press conference, death penalty.
What's going on?
Yes, please. You have to move some of these mics.
Got an entourage back there.
Good morning, everyone. The Florida Supreme Court issued an opinion yesterday in my case against the governor. Shortly thereafter, I did issue a statement through my public information officer. However, I want to make sure that my position and the process for moving forward are clear. Before I go on, I must thank all of those who supported me throughout this process with your time, talents, and resources. You did not go unnoticed or unappreciated. I want to say thank you. I respect the decision and appreciate that the Supreme Court of Florida has responded and issued an opinion outlining its interpretation of the facts and circumstances of this case, as well as Florida and other state law. This has now set the stage of how I will move forward. The Florida Supreme Court ruled that a case-specific determination must be made on first-degree murder cases. To ensure that the court's decision is heeded, I have organized a death penalty review panel comprised of 7 well-versed and experienced attorneys from my office. This panel will evaluate each first-degree murder case in the 9th Judicial Circuit and make a determination whether and when death penalty will be sought. I would like to introduce the prosecutors who will make up the death penalty review panel. First is Deborah Barra, Kelly Hicks, Kendra Moore, Gabrielle Sanders, and Chris Smith. The other person is Ken Nunnally, who unfortunately is unable to be here today, but has graciously accepted the appointment. I've chosen this team of experienced prosecutors who I am extremely confident will follow the law. Each member has been chosen, and many of them have either sought death penalty themselves, even in the more recent future, in the recent past, and none of them have even expressed and have been confirmed as having no opposition to death penalty. I will briefly explain how it works. The death penalty review panel will review each case and present a recommendation to me. This is only after the assigned assistant state attorney, who will also be that 7th member of the panel, has met with the family. When the recommendation is to seek death, my office will file a death notice within the time required by law. For your clarity, it is worth noting that I have vested my authority into the review panel and have no intention of usurping the authority which I granted. With implementation of this panel, it is my expectation that going forward, all first-degree murder cases that occur in my jurisdiction here in the 9th Circuit will remain in my office to be evaluated and prosecuted accordingly. Just as we ask jurors, in order to seek death, this panel will notify me that it is their unanimous opinion that a death sentence should be sought. This panel will begin immediately. Many of you have asked, am I taking the 30 cases back from Brad King's office? Although I do believe with the implementation of this death penalty review board, legally, I can request those back from his office. However, I don't think that it is in the best interest of the families of homicide victims or their cases at this point. There's a difference between giving up and letting go. At this time, I believe the most compassionate and human response is to allow them to remain with the current prosecutor and not be impacted by any ping pong effect. I'm prepared to take a few questions.
Why are you requiring it to be unanimous?
I think the best thing that I can do is be consistent with the law, and the law has requirements for juries, and that's where we get our guidance.
Ms. Ayala?
Some families say they don't trust a review panel just because of your stance on the death penalty. What do you have to say to
Well, that's why I've removed myself from the process. While I remain the state attorney, I remain the person in charge of this office. When it comes to death penalty, I'm prepared to give that power to them to make the determination. I will not be a part of the board, and then after the board has made its determination, present that to me, and the attorney assigned will then file the notice to seek death if it is appropriate. Sir.
Ayala, why did you choose to go this route with the panel as opposed to doing it the more traditional way?
And when you say the more traditional way, what do you mean? Because I know we have 20 circuits and we all do it differently.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I'm just saying, where you make, the buck stops with you. Why isn't the buck stopping with you?
Well, at this point, the buck will stop with me, but I don't have any intention on usurping that authority that I've given to them.
Ms. Ayala,
Ms. Ayala?
previously
Ms. Ayala?
expressed.
Ma'am, I'm next, thank you. Do you believe that this is a political shootout with Rick Scott for his endeavors to become in Washington with Trump?
I think that's for the voters to decide. Right now, as state attorney, I have to be focused on what the Supreme Court has said, and my job here is to follow the law, not to interpret his conduct.
Thank you.
You previously expressed that the death penalty costs too much, is not a deterrent to crime. Will those be factors that your team will consider in deciding whether or not to pursue a death penalty?
Those were factors in my ultimate decision. The factors that they would be looking at are the ones outlined in the statute that jurors look at as it relates to aggravators.
Madam, is your case in federal court still pending? What's the status of that and what is the
At this point, we're focused on one step at a time. I'm focused right here, right now, on responding to the Supreme Court. I do expect that to be handled in short order.
So just to be clear though, so if one of the seven doesn't say they should think it should be death penalty, then you won't do it?
Much like a juror, that if a jury does not have a unanimous decision, then it is not a death sentence.
If a case is taken away from you, if you choose not to seek the death penalty on it, do you plan to file legal action each time?
I don't think at this point that there's any basis to remove cases because I am following the law.
Could you go a little more into what you've done to ensure diversity of thought and background on this panel?
I'm sorry?
A little more into what you've done to ensure diversity of thought and background on this panel?
Well, when it comes to the process, I think one of the most important things is to have the process be fair, to be consistent, and to have experienced lawyers who address the concern that there may be an opposition to death penalty. I can assure you that I have attorneys who have actually prosecuted while this litigation was pending and sought death and received death sentences. There is absolutely no one who has not sought death. Every member of this panel believes in the death penalty, believes that it should be sought, and I expect to see actual unanimous decisions to seek death.
Why do you
decide to take this action right now?
So basically,
Say that one more time,
yeah,
Roseanne.
Supreme Court, here in Orange County Court.
Well, I think that it is appropriate. The Supreme Court has ruled, and as a state attorney, I have a responsibility to follow the law as quickly as I can.
Do you say your same professional and personal opinion?
My personal opinion, the facts of the case, none of that changes. However, that is personal and that is factual and research-based. When the Supreme Court believes and they interpret the law that may be different from how I interpret it, it is absolutely up to me to abide by that, regardless of how I interpret the research and the data.
Ms. Ayala,
How much this has cost taxpayers and how you defend it out of the loss?
I'm sorry?
How much has this cost taxpayers at this point, and how do you defend it given that you lost the case?
When it comes to the amount of money, I think that it's very clear that this was a litigable issue. I do not believe that it was a waste of taxpayer money, and any specifics on that, you can contact my office for the numbers.
$500,000.
Is it being appealed to the United States?
All of that has been part of litigation. It's all part of the answers that I've already given you on multiple occasions. Attorneys have public relations individuals to help with litigation.
Are you seeking review in the United States Supreme Court of the
I'm
decision?
sorry?
Are you seeking review in the United States Supreme Court?
That was originally sought, and like I said, I expect that to be resolved in short order. Right now, in the immediate future, was us to respond to the Supreme Court, which is my responsibility.
Thank you.
Ms. Ayala, as cases were given over to Brad King's office, were any funds diverted from your office? And if so, have you had to cut back on any staffing or other needs in your office?
In short term, like I said, everything is going to follow. At this point, we are very aware that my budget was cut, and with the implementation of this panel, I do expect to have our funds back, but we will have a process by which we acquire those.
Just for the record, are you fundamentally open now to enforcing the law for the death penalty as a state?
Again, I've never violated the law. I've never been open. I've never not been open to following the law.
That's right.
The law is open to interpretation, and that's what I did. I interpreted the law. Now, The Supreme Court has now interpreted it, and they have explained it from their look at laws from other states, their laws as it relates to judges,
Sure she
and they
does.
are the supreme
She knows
determiner
exactly
of
what
what the
she's
law
talking about.
is. And that is clear to me, and that's exactly why this board exists. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Ayala, jurors in the Ninth Judicial Circuit were already returning a small number of death penalty cases. Do you expect the same coming from your panel, or do you expect that number to increase?
I'm sorry, I don't
Do you
understand.
expect the number of death penalty cases to increase, or since jurors in the Ninth Judicial Circuit were already returning like a few numbers?
I can't say whether or not it's going to increase or decrease. What I can say is that it is an honest, fair process by which we will do it, and it will be interpreting the factors, the aggravators, and the facts of every case that make that determination.
Ms. Ayala, your supporters say that you've made some very valid arguments about reasons why the death penalty is bad in Florida. If a state attorney can't get that public discussion going, who can? Or do you think that discussion is now taking place?
The discussion is, let me make this clear. I made a decision because of the way I interpreted the law. The discussion is not up for debate once the Supreme Court has ruled. If there are others who move on with this, that is their position, that is their organization. As the state attorney, I have one responsibility, and that is when law is very clear, to follow it.
The governor stressed the lack of freedom of this man yesterday. Would you like to respond to him directly?
I've responded to the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
Do you regret your initial decision?
As I said, the law is up for interpretation, and the way that I interpreted the law is different than the way that the Supreme Court. I will always honor and respect what the law is, and that's what I did.
Two more questions.
What transparency will there be for the committee itself? Will we be able to review why they're making decisions on death penalty cases one way or the other? Will we be able to see who voted which way?
Well, when it comes to the actual details of that, that's even a part that I'm going to allow them to create without me as we continue to produce the details as far as what's going to be produced and what's not. The goal is to make certain that we are transparent. The goal is to make certain that we are clear in which aggravators result in it being a death sentence.
One more question.
All you need is one
What do
aggravator.
you say to state representatives who are still asking for your removal from office?
At this point, my focus is this community, which I love. My focus is justice and administration. That's what I absolutely intend to do, and that's what we're going to head and do now. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.